How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another episode here in the virtual boot room. We have a special for you this week. In our fourth episode, we decided that it can't just be Paul and I. We had to bring someone else in to have a conversation on Football Manager with us. So we are going to welcome the worst football manager ever, because that seems like the best place to start. So how are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I suppose it's one place to start, isn't it? Yeah, hey, Colin. Yeah,
the only way is up.
Yeah, good point. No, thank you. Thanks for having me part of the podcast, guys. It's good to be here, and hope you're well, Colin. Hope you're all right, Paul.
Yeah, good to first ever guest.
Yeah,
am I? Yeah, I'm privileged. I feel privileged to be here. Well, in my house at the moment, you know what I mean? But I feel privileged to be here all the same.
See, we share a virtual couch and we span the whole globe.
I have no idea why you two are lying, but we are all sat here in one room on a couch discussing Football Manager. So please stop lying to our viewers.
Sorry, yeah, I'm trying to kind of pretend that we're like low budget. Like, I know obviously we paid for the first class airfare over to Norway to join you guys, to join you, Paul, and to sit with you. But I was trying to do the kind of chilling out as if like, yeah, we do this for free and there's no money involved at all. I'm faking it, right?
Screw that. We get paid millions.
If that's the case, how come you didn't get me a beer?
Said millions, not billions.
Hey, stupid currency deflation.
Well, I think we've got to start by asking. The Football Manager's been out a few weeks now. Have you been sacked yet? The worst football manager ever?
No, not yet. I think I'm doing all right. In 100% honesty, I haven't got to Christmas yet in one save. So to be honest, because I go so slowly through a season, I like to think that it's just elongating the time before I do get sacked. So actually, I'm doing all right at the moment. I'm into October and I'm doing all right. No sign of me getting sacked. No ultimatums just yet. I think the job security says stable. Ooh. Which isn't bad for. I know, yeah. I'm not untouchable or anything like that yet, but stable, which to me is a great accomplishment.
It's a stable place to be.
Exactly. My 2 feet are on the ground. No nerves yet. Things are looking vaguely positive, which is a rare sight. But I'm enjoying it though, 100%.
So I think you've got to tell Colin who you're managing.
Oh yeah, well, so I'm managing Corby Town at the moment. Downloaded the Level 9 database, and so I've started unemployed. At the beginning of the first season, you can see there's a whole bunch. There's like Grimsby and Wolves and a whole bunch of decent English sides, but obviously they all rejected me. But I got Corby job. I got the Corby job, so that's good. He's starting in the Evo Stick Northern Premier, and yes. So as I said, into October. I don't want to give away too much because at the date of the recording of this, episode 1 has just been released, where I've just played the first game of the season and lost it miserably 4-0, which is embarrassing to say the least. You
did it for the viewers.
Yeah.
You have an image, you have a brand, you had to keep it up. We all understand how that works.
I tell you what, it's a great excuse whenever I lose. It's just, it's just for the entertainment. I thought, obviously. The minute I start trying, then people will get bored because I'll just win all the time. Yeah. But but things were actually in without giving away too much. They started badly, then stayed pretty bad, but we're on the upward curve now. A month in, we're on an upward curve, and I'm looking forward to showing people a little bit more of that when I release it. But yeah, so I'm quite excited actually. Brought in a few new players, brought in a whole new staff team now, and that's all settled. They seem to be settling into things, and I seem to be settling into knowing my players a bit more, and I think this could be an interesting season for me.
Oh, excellent. So we will certainly look forward to delving in a little bit more with the players you brought in as we get later into the podcast. But
yeah,
Paul, you're one level up from the Evo Stick back north. So
I am.
how is life
I am.
going in your series?
It's going well. I've not been sacked. There's 2 out of 2 so far.
Great
Hey,
job.
Podcast is going well. Let's hope Colin doesn't let us down. Hashtag spoiler alert coming. No, he hasn't been sacked
Oh,
Nope, I have not been sacked.
yet. It's going well. Season 1 I've missed out on promotion, but we started to build something nice. Season 2 started with me reducing the wage
Just by the way,
budget.
that's code word for Paul's recruiting a bunch of god awful players that he's never going to get rid of.
No.
If you watched FC United of Manchester, that's usually what that means when he says, "Oh, I'm building something really special." It means we're going to end up with some god awful guy who's going to be hanging around till the championship.
I've already got four players who came through my youth recruitment with my starting 11 at the minute. So pretty much going along them lines, but I was going
mate.
for the more positive sound of building something. But
Well, now that feel free,
Gone.
go ahead. You can try. You do your
No,
best to sell it now.
forget about it. It's done. Let me try this different route then. Well, guys, what I've done is I've brought up a youngster from my under-18s. He's dreadful. He's going to play on the right wing. I've got a 16-year-old centre-back who's now in the first team. He's played 24 times already for the club at the age of 16. Shocking as well. I've got right...
times. 24
he's
times.
24
Crikey.
times. As centre-back, he's only 16. He's dreadful, so don't worry about it.
Remember, Paul's never found a youth recruit he didn't like.
I've got a centre mid. I've got a centre mid who's only 18. He's already passed 50 appearances for the club. Another dreadful player. He's actually quite good. I genuinely think he could go far. The only thing is he's got 2 negatives at them. What are they? Unhappy with training. Feels individual training has been assigned as not beneficial. Yes, because passing as a central midfielder is just not needed. Obviously. You clown. Well, we'll see.
To be
That's
fair, he's 18 and you've thrown him right into the first team, so his ego is just out of control.
Oh man,
Yeah.
you can imagine it, can't you? This 18-year-old thinking thinking he's Ronaldo. It'll be the training ground must be, the doors must be so wide to fit their heads through it.
He's
awful.
good. He's decent. He's decent. Yeah, well, I like him anyway. But yeah, it's going well. I've cut the wage. We're only spending 3,400 a week now on wages, which does mean we can now start to make money, because we were losing money quite badly for a club at this level. So I had to get rid of a lot of the older people who were on £400-500 a week, and the
So
players
those are the
now.
22-year-olds?
No, they're actually close to 30. I was getting a nervous twitch with them in my team. I mean, currently, I've got my backup goalkeepers 37. Then I've got a 31-year-old and 2 30-year-olds. So, I mean, they're going to have to... In fact, they all actually transfer listed. Then I've got 27-year-old, then 26, then everyone else is under 25. So, we're building something. But... Do you know what? Leave me alone. Let's move on to you, Colin. How's it going with your pathetic waste of time savings funds? Hope you've been sacked.
So I haven't been sacked. So for those who are up to date as of recording, so today was probably our most complex month in League One. So we had Nice, Monaco, Bordeaux. Who was the other one? Let me just see quickly in here.
Brilliant. Preparation.
Saint Etienne and Nantes. As I like to do, we lost the live com, but actually had a great month, including 2 0-0 draws with Monaco and Saint Etienne. So the club's starting to come together. I'm actually really encouraged. So unlike you with your youth,
If I said that, if I turned around and said the club's really starting to come together, you'd have been on me like a sack of potatoes.
yeah, but mine really is. So we're hanging around mid-table in League One. Obviously, we are not PSG, and in no way, shape, or form close to that. We're about 12 points off at 12 games into the season from them. But we're hanging tough. The league is actually fairly competitive, so we've got 4 points clear of the promotion playoff space. but it's a pretty competitive crowd. But I'm actually really enjoying it. I'm getting ready. I've got scouts scouring France for expiring contracts in the sort of 18 and 19-year-old crowd, so we can look for another big splash in January. We sign for another big summer crowd. I think we're doing pretty well with guys that we brought in so far in the last one. So of the crop that we brought in, there's a bunch in our reserves, but let's just see. We've had We've had four of the youth crowd come right directly into the team, the first team, and they're playing really well. So overall, I think things are going optimistically well. I talked a little bit in the series, so that I'm trying to be a little careful because, obviously in the league you can get into continental competitions, but both the Coupe de la Liga and the Coupe de France will get you into the Europa League, and I was misguided into thinking that I stood some shot in either of those competitions. And while we haven't entered the Coupe de France, I will give you a little hint: we are not winning the Coupe de la Liga this year on that. So that was a little bit of a disappointment to go sort of crashing out face first on that one, but it's okay. It gives us some time to focus on other things like surviving in the league. Financially, we've got the club sort of set really nicely. And to be fair, when you're sucking money off of solidarity funds from like transfers of Riyad Mahrez and Paul Pogba and Dimitri Payet, it's okay. Your bank account sort of rolls a little bit on that. So that is nice.
See, I like to build my own legacy and not suck from previous managers.
Now that everybody's kind of calibrated where we're at, leagues and divisions and whatnot, that we're so, well, hey, I have quite a crowd that I think is coming through. We will have more of the world's greatest players coming through my setup, but
me too.
We'll have to see how.
Yeah, me too. With Corby, that'll be happening with me as well.
Yeah, I think Colin's jealous. And I have to just jump in and say that Ryan Burton, the 18-year-old who's played over 50 appearances, he has an 89% pass completion after 13 games this season. That's quite good.
That is actually very good, actually, isn't it? That's
I
actually very
was
good.
so impressed. I mean, and he's complaining about being on passing for individual training. I mean, I think he needs to understand who the boss is, to be honest with you.
But he's really good at it.
He's good at passing. He needs. I'm now curious. That 16-year-old has a 59% passer completion. Okay. But he's a centre back. So let me just check. He's 77% tackling. What about heading? 70. Okay, he's actually quite crap. So yeah, the next topic tonight, Colin, is how do we plan for a season?
Yes.
So I think what we've got to do is we've got to first off go to the worst football manager, mainly because he came in late after not replying to me today, which means he didn't get the topics early, which now means he's now sitting there in panic trying to think of an answer for this.
Yeah, trying to come up with a really amazing plan that's going to be like, wow, I've never thought of that before.
Wow, that's how he fails.
Yeah.
So what I don't want to do is...
Oh, yeah, whatever I say for the next 2 or 3 minutes, just totally do the opposite and you'll be
opposite.
Just bear in mind, I genuinely, I think, some people said to me, is the worst football manager, is it a gimmick or whatever, just to, try and get more people to watch. And I'm like, no, I genuinely am not very good at this game. Like, last Football Manager 2016, my highest achievement was getting promotion from the Vanarama South to the Vanarama National. However, I was then relegated again. So
if you listen, you'll hear this. That's my pen getting ready to make some notes on what not to do. So how do you plan for your season?
Right. Well, how do I plan? Let me just clear my throat here. No. So I think for me, when I plan for my season, ultimately you've got to go with you look at what your squad is like, right? You look at what you've got, and the reality is, most of the time when I'm starting a new season, I have been with the club less than a season because it just doesn't. I very rarely do I last longer than 2 or 3 seasons. However, I think although I don't choose the games of pre-season, I do really try and get a really broad sense of every player. So I try and get every player playing, even if I don't even think they're going to start. I like to try and give them at least a full game to really understand. And I'll watch quite a lot of the games. So I'll go into either comprehensive, or very rarely I'll go down to extended at this point now. I'll stick at a comprehensive highlights and really try and get to a feel as to what the players are like and who is actually worthwhile using and stuff like that. So that's probably the first thing I use. I think in pre-season as well, I tend to clear out the squad, the staff squad, sorry, and get a totally new staffing. I very rarely even look to see how good the staff are. So I'll get rid of them, mutual termination straight away, and then get a whole new staff team in. This is obviously at the beginning of a whole save more than just a season. If I am like 2 or 3 seasons in, which, as I said, doesn't happen very often, but if I am a couple of seasons in, then it's probably slightly different. But on a new save, straight away, new staff, and try out every player. I think what else do I do in planning my season? I guess the training, you go straight into sort of tactics and fitness training, get as much as that high intensity as you can before you start. I guess nothing else is off the top of my head, to be honest. Like, as you guys say stuff, I'll probably pretend that I do that as well and say, I do that all the time. big time, working on that. No, I think one of my mistakes is I don't get onto recruiting new players quick enough. I think to be honest, if I thought about it, the first week I take over a club, and if we're in pre-season, I would get straight into seeing what the depth of the squad is like, and work from there. Like, have you seen that new screen, the new squad depth screen in FM17? Where
Yes.
You've got the picture view and you can see all the different. I love that screen because it's so much easier to see it in a really quick way. How deep your squad actually goes, and so actually, if my head screwed on really early on, I would look at that and go, right, straight away I can see the gaps here, and let's just get people in. Now I always play with attribute masking on, so and I tend to do low league management all the time. It's really hard to know straight away which are the good players to get, right? So it's a bit of hit and miss. And I kind of just almost like go a little bit transfer happy, get in a bunch of players, and then just try and get rid of them if I can, if I find out they're rubbish. So strategy levels are low in my world, but sometimes it works. However, more often than not, it doesn't.
I like the fact you have the masking on. It's a bearer of mine, which I've ranted about many times before. About how when people go, oh, I've done this, I signed some amazing players, or I did this and I did that. Then you find out they don't have attribute masking on, they don't actually scout the player, you literally just go and look and go, oh yeah, he's good, I'll sign him. Don't be proud of yourself when you've literally just went and gone, I'll have him.
Exactly. It's just I think it's such a shame to not use attribute masking, because you're missing out on some of the realism of things. If you're a Sunday League footballer manager, right, and you're coming from nowhere, you're just not going to have the understanding and knowledge of the local players and stuff, and you've got to do it a bit hit and miss at that point, or wait months for your one scout who's got a kind of judging player potential of 3 or 4. You have to get rid of the scout, try and get a vaguely decent scout in, or at least get a couple in if you can afford it, and then just go from there and try for the best. Which, to be honest, probably doesn't do me any favors in terms of my ability to keep hold of a job, but it makes it more fun. I prefer it a lot.
It's nice to hear. What do you think, Colin?
Well, one, I have to laugh on the squad evaluation, because I can see the same thing with you, as you have all those squad guys come in, and you've never gotten rid of one of them that you didn't see on that. But when I start when I jump into a season, like this season was a good example, right? So We came in last season, and it was actually really odd to figure out what to do because we dominated in League Two for most of the season.
That's
We
what
tailed
happens when
off.
you pick an easy save, Colin.
Hey, well, you know, some of us just prefer to be successful and look like we know what the hell we're doing. But you know, hey, to each his own. But we were, you know, we were expected to be a mid-table side. I think we overperformed, but we really did dominate well in the league. So then the question really became, and I talked a little bit about it in some of the videos. It's something I actually struggled with a bit was going into the summer. How much did I need to change? Was the squad good enough? Was it not good enough? Were there key things that we did? How much of the squad was going to develop? Because it is a fairly young side. I mean, the side that I picked is a big internal development squad. They're a big, they have an amazing youth system. They do bring their own products in. So the question was, okay, do I leave a bunch of them out, let them continue to develop and grow? Exactly what are we trying to get out of things? And I actually struggled with it for quite a bit. The plan ended up being I had gone out in the January window to try and populate my under-19s and my reserves with some higher potential players that I could evaluate down the road. So what I ended up doing was looking at who they were. If I thought they were better than what I had and had good, strong League One potential, I put them into the starting space. Now, a bunch of them were gambles, like you said. You can scout only so much. I do, and I tend to find serious picks will scout them very long so that I have very, very complete information on them if I'm going to pull the trigger, especially for any kind of reasonable money. But for some of the younger characters, it was a little more, shooting from the hip. But I think I got a pretty good crop of the, 16 or 18 players that we brought in. I've got 4 that are in the starting lineup. A couple of them we played some serious money for. So I have my attacking right midfielder from PSG and a box-to-box midfielder that's actually working out fantastically for me. We put some money into him, so I spent a little more time to know it. But my center back is and my rotating defensive midfielder were picks that came through that youth pull and are actually settling in and playing really well. And as you can see in the save, we're mid-table. We're not setting the world on fire by any stretch of the imagination, but we're not terrible. And I think I'm getting basically what I want out of this season. Now, we talked a little last week, and something I'm struggling with a lot is the style, the system, the players, and all that, what I'm going to carry forward. Is it going to win the Champions League? I don't know. Good news is that, if we can sit and this squad's going to sit mid-table, I think it'll carry us into Europe after it develops over a couple of years. So some of these guys start to get, most of them are 19 to 23. So we start getting into that 26, 25, 26, 27 spot, and we should be into Europe. Is it going to be a Champions League caliber team? Are we going to go take this tactic and squad up against, the Madrids and Barcelonas and, Man Cities and Arsenals and Bayern Munich's? I can't figure that out just yet. But it gives me something interesting to think about. So I think from a plan for this season, it was a lot of doubt coming into it. Is it good enough? Is it not good enough? I'd like to say that at least with Truro in Football Manager 2016, every time I got promoted, I knew the squad I was carrying was in no way, shape, or form good enough for the next level. So the season planning and transfers and players I was looking for and what I was trying to do was always much easier because I always knew I was crap and got lucky to get up. So I had to go and reset the stick and try and get new players in to try and hold on to where I was. This one's been a little more difficult because it's better players, it's a better division, it's a lot more potential that's out there. And do you play them to see if you can realize it, or do you hold back and say, maybe I'll just replace them, and you end up with a bunch of angry kids running around in your youth academy screaming and yelling at you every day about how they're not getting enough first team football. Because we all love those conversations when they start popping up. So this one's been...
It's like none for ages, and they all come at once.
Oh, it's like such a pain. Yeah, December through, February, it's just... I think it's like open season on bitching. Every player shows up, it's like, hey, I'm not playing enough. It's like, dude, you just got here. I don't even know who you are. Yeah, but I still don't play enough. It's like, why don't you sit your ass on the bench for a few minutes? But it really is weird. It's not something I gave a lot of thought to about how sort of perplexing some of this is. I think on some level, if you're moving from like, the Conference North to the Conference Premier, Conference Premier to League Two, League One, into the Championship. Maybe Championship to Premier League is the first time in sort of the English pyramid where you really get hammered with, am I good enough to hold on or not good enough to hold on? I think most people would be, other than Paul, who saves every player he's got, would be willing to say, yeah, if I'm moving from like the Conference Premier to League Two, the bulk of my squad's probably not good enough out of the gate, just because the competition gap is so different. So you'd be looking to retool. This has been weird because we really were so. It makes planning complicated, and unfortunately, if you can't plan, what the hell do you do with the whole summer, right? You get jammed up in how the hell do you execute, which I was certainly late to. I was certainly late to the party in some aspects because of it.
I think it's definitely, as you say, you've got the issue where you're in League One now, so you've got to decide, are these players going to be good enough in a few years, or do I need to change them all around quickly, and then I'm going to have a lot of people who are upset, a lot of kids running around screaming, waving hands around.
I think the plan and the prospect for continental competition has certainly made things unique. It's not something I've dealt a lot with before as I play Football Manager, because I've always played a lot lower league. So it's forcing me to think about new things for sure.
Yeah. Because there's not much great like satisfaction when there is a player who does manage to make the jump. When you do go up a notch, go up a league, and then you give them a 1 or 2 run-outs, and they just play really well. But I don't know. My experience is that it just doesn't happen often, unless you have some like absolute star in your side in the season before. Very rarely does a player manage to make the jump. It takes a lot, I think. It takes a very good player to make the jump up. So, yeah, I think a lot the few times I have been promoted, which is obviously not that often, but when I have, I think one of my failings has been not to change as many players as I do and update the squad, which is a shame because you kind of, when you do get attached to these players, you just want them to succeed on the next level, don't you?
Colin's going to have such a go at me on my answer of this.
If you bring up Bram, I swear to God, I'll lose it on you.
But, right, firstly, he is the name of my manager on this save, so I kind of need to bring him up. No, I don't. I won't bring him up. It's more that the next part, you're going to just destroy me. Okay, so...
Hold on, let me just get myself settled in here. I am prepared. Go ahead.
So season 2, expectations are avoid relegation from the Conference North. A massive drop in expectation from last year, which was top half, and we finished 9th. So they've obviously they had a look at the financial situation of the club, and I know that's taken into account, and they've now decided avoid relegation is sufficient. But that
they looked around at the staff and said, "Man, that's about as good as we're going to do."
They realised the manager's Bram Ellison, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
I mentioned him. There we go.
Couldn't tell what a good guy on the field looked like if hell froze over.
You just don't understand. Okay, but what that basically said to me is, okay, you have a free hit. There's no way I was going to go down. Not a chance in hell. I mean, this season's proved it. 3 defeats in, how many? 17. 3 defeats in 17 so far. The team's just, in my opinion, we're good enough for the playoffs minimum. But it gave me the chance to bring in the youngsters. So when I look at the season, I look at what the expectations are and what the finances are of the club. I'll do that as soon as it all comes through, the 25th of June in England. So when I saw avoid relegation and I saw we struggling financially in terms of monthly income to expenditure, I decided that the 11 first team players who were run out of contract, I let them all go. So I lost 11 players over the summer, all of them in the first team last year or in and around the first team.
Wow.
and they've obviously been replaced by a lot of youth players. But this is where obviously we laugh and joke, etc. But the youth players who I have brought through are people who I believe are good enough for League Two. Now that is me saying that okay, avoid relegation this year, which means we'll push for the playoffs. If we don't go up, then we'll go up next year. 3 or 4 years, they're going to be 23, 24, 20, between 20 and 24, we get into League 2, we can cement ourselves there for a couple of years and rebuild with some players who have the potential for the Championship. Then when we get to the Championship, sign a few players to go up again. So I mean, I looked at it long term and I looked at that. I'm not in this crazy, somebody messaged me 2 days ago and said, I'm starting a save with Darlington. What advice would you give? And I just said, just take your time, have fun, enjoy the game, play how you want to play, build something you're proud of. He messaged me a day later and said, I've quit because we weren't going to get promoted. And it's it's so frustrating when people have this mindset, and it is because of people in the past who have publicly displayed their content and walked up divisions or won numerous titles in a unrealistic and impossible way. Where it is possible, but it's possible if A, you edit your team, B, you edit other teams, C, you actually managing in a league which has no quality whatsoever and anyone can beat anybody, so as long as you find an exploit in the game, you're sorted. Or D, you're managing Real Madrid and you post now you're winning the Champions League. Good for you, I should bloody hope so. There's too much of people, if they don't win promotion season 1 or season 2, they just quit. They just go, I can't do this. At the end of the day, we know my squad's young, so it's going to be a couple of years before they compete in. But that Terry Davis, the 16-year-old we spoke about, Colin, you've seen screenshots of him. He's definitely a League 2 standard centre-back. I mean, when you go on to central defender stats of what the game recommends, there's nothing below 9. And all of his mentals are around the 12 to 15 mark. So this guy is going to be a great defender. So when I've got no expectation from the board, why not give these players a chance? Why not see if you can bring them through? And at the same time, I'm saving some finances, so when I do get to League 2, I've got a bit of money to spend, so I can rebuild the squad for that next step. So that's how I address my season anyway, Colin.
No, I think it, and on some level it does make good sense that, especially when your expectations are low enough, you can get in and really try, and exercise and develop some of these players and explore and at least figure out what's good, bad, and otherwise. So, I think there is something to be said for looking long and hard at what your expectations and your position in the universe sort of is, and figuring out is there an opportunity to do something different, whereas, as you're moving into different and higher levels and more competitive and money becomes a bigger issue, do you take a step back and become more risk averse at that point? Whereas, the opportunity you have now is to really be a little bit more, risky and take a shot on a couple of these players and potentially, like you said, potentially strike it big.
I mean, that was my problem in the Championship last year with FC United Manchester.
And Graham Ellison.
Well, no, because he actually was a good player. It's James Reed who you hated.
He was definitely not a good player.
But going. My problem was when I got to the Championship, I could not convince myself to put the club deep into the red at the chance of getting into the Premier League. I was more focused on each year making sure we were in the black, each year making sure the club was ticking over, and we came close to the Premier League playoffs a couple of times, missing out by the playoffs is so soul destroying. But I kept coming back. We keep having to sell our best players because we were financially screwed, because being fan owned, the fans were taking more money than they were putting in, which made no sense. A club for the fans, but the fans were making millions off us.
That's why it's for them, isn't it? They're getting money out of it. That's why it's for them.
So I think that I've definitely learned for this save. I think if we do get to the championship and we do have a team like I had with FC United Manchester, we had a great central midfielder and a great striker who were Premier League quality. And all I think I needed was a wide man to help contribute going forward. And I think we would have gone up. We were just missing out one or two players, and I should have put us in the red short term for that long term gain. So that is something which I needed to do.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, sir?
Yeah. Well, how many seasons did it take you to get FC United of Manchester to the Championship?
I think first season in the Championship happened season 17, 16,
Okay.
16
Yeah.
or 17. Then I went up, I went back down to League One. I spent 2 seasons in League One again and went back up. Then went straight back down again. Then went straight back up. Then I stayed for about 4 or 5 years in the Championship before I lost the save. So I think it was...
Because
Go on.
surely the early seasons that you had them with must have been reasonably high expectations of FC United and Manchester, right? Because they got a lot of prospects about them, a lot of kind of hope from the fans. Was there quite high expectations at the beginning?
It was
that you had
actually...
to meet.
FM16 was the first FM where I actually realised they've put a lot more detail into the expectation side of the game in terms of realism. In previous games, if you finished top half, the next season you'd expect promotion. Where on FM16, and again on this one, we're proven with Season 2 expectations, it takes a lot more into account. When we were in the Conference North, we had the third lowest wage budget. So they only ever expected mid-table, and in the 5th season we went up. It took 5 years to get out of the Conference North. And again, this would drive Colin it did drive Colin insane. He was going crazy. This was due to the fact that season 1, 2 and 3, I had 5 16-year-olds, 17 then 18-year-olds in the starting 11. And I developed them, and they were the guys who were with me for 20 seasons. And they played all the way up to the Championship, and they were playing in the Championship. But through that time, the board expectations were always so nice. I don't think they ever once said to me win the league in 26 seasons, which is
that's helpful.
It's not. Yeah, it's definitely nice because I'm without a shadow of a doubt a slow building, long-term youth development style manager with Football Manager, and it drives some people insane. Some people won't watch my series because it's too slow in terms of I'm more focused on developing the players than walking the leagues. I could go on and buy these players who were players on big money who will walk the division and will go up, but then I don't want to just recycle a full team every year. I want to bring players through, and as Colin says, hang on to them, which Colin loves to dig at me for.
I do. And we took I think it was interesting. First 2 saves that started at the same point at the same time to see the different paths. When I went, I think I was 11 seasons from Conference South to the Premier League, so taking over the top. But I think Paul captured it right. At my season in the Championship, or my second season in the Championship, I effectively looked at it and said, okay, I'm going to spend every nickel I can get out of this club and gamble the hell on promotion, because if I can get into the Premier League, at that point, $135 million basically makes up for all kinds of mistakes that I was going to make. And and basically that's what happened. Is I mortgaged the hell out of the future of the club, but we got up there, so the gamble paid off, and ended up 90 million to the good at the end of the season with a new stadium, new infrastructure, new players, and all kinds of stuff. But you got to make that call, and it's not easy, because it really is one of those, is this going to work? Because it's really a one shot, and if it doesn't work, the whole thing is sort of just screwed. You end up massively in debt. You're going to sell the hell out of players. You're going to end up in just all sorts of hurt from doing it. But if you can make it work, it can work.
That was after the 24th season, I think it was, or 25th one. Darren, one of the admins on FM Central, said to me, "Go for it. Just spend the money and go for it." But I said to him, I said, I don't want to have spent 25 years building a structure of like. My whole backroom staff was all players who'd been with me from the start, and once they retired, they then went on to my backroom staff. I don't want to do all of this to then throw all the money I don't have out of the window, us to fail on promotion and to destroy the club. Because then it's like, well, why were you so safe for all the other years? You might as well have done it from minute one if you were just going to try to get up as quick as you can. So I kind of wanted to finish with the same policy and see if I could get there with the same policy, and in the end I didn't. And in the end, I know people say, "Oh, well, you only made it to the championship." Yeah, well, it's still the best save I've ever had in terms of enjoyment, and I hope Darlington surpasses that. So fingers crossed on that one.
And it's still about 3 times better than I've ever got. I don't think I've ever made it to the championship, so it's all relative, really.
Well, it's a good time now then to ask about your transfer policy. How do you create and execute your transfer policy in terms of being the worst football manager ever? And again, the pen's ready.
Well, I've written various theses of the theory of transfer policy over my years in my expertise. How do I create an execute? Well, I suppose for me, I guess we sort of began to cover it a little bit. I think it does hugely depend on the expectations of the year in comparison to what's happened before in the previous season, right? So if it's, I guess I won't talk about if it's the first season, but if you're into the second or third season, for me, I would go, right, what are the expectations? If it's basically the same that I did last year, I would go, right, okay, well, if I want to improve this, and I'll in honesty, I think I'm more and more beginning to lean up the grade in terms of spending the money, like you were saying, Colin. Just spend the money and hope that it pays off. Now in reality, it doesn't usually pay off for me, but I'll kind of put the money into it just to try and even if I can just take the squad up one step, right? One step to go, a few places higher than I was in the league before. If I was in the high end of the table, to try and get them into the playoff positions would be. I'll kind of just try and spend a little bit more than I would and maybe go up a notch, up a star's worth of ability, something like that, and see what I can do. I'm a sucker for just believing that a striker will do it for me. So that's often be a bit for me, just focusing on the kind of the glory and not thinking about actually the depth of the squad, all the areas of the pitch. But apart from that, I think one of the other mistakes, I'm learning from my mistakes. But one of the mistakes I've made in the past is when I've been promoted, as we were talking about earlier, I just haven't thought to myself, right, I need to get a whole load of new players in here. So I've kind of hoped for the best with the players I've got, and brought in maybe 1 or 2 extras, usually a striker, and that's about it. And so it just ends up just being a wasted money on that one. End up being good enough, and I get halfway through the season, and because I haven't really got a transfer policy strategy that's strong enough, I end up being reactionary, right, instead of proactively trying to improve the squad before it's all gone crap, if that makes sense. So I think if you want something to write down of what not to do, is don't react to how you're doing, is do all the changes before it starts, and then hopefully you'll be in a better place to build on a decent season.
Predict, do not react.
Yes.
Proactive, not reactive. There's your one-liner. That's tweetable.
There you go, Colin. Tweet it.
There you go. We will certainly tweet that out. I think we talked a little bit about my transfer stuff, as we said. I think it's not. A lot of it is expectation driven, and then trying to figure out where you want to build. And I will fully claim that I'm a little perplexed as to what direction I want to go in and where I'm going to be, at this level. And having never really played a save deep into the continental competition space, and Paul and I had talked a little bit in the last episode, how the hell to prepare for that is sort of, catching me. So I'm still very short term. I have a good style. I know players that I want to fit that style. So I think right now we're going to keep filling that to see if we can't improve the player types and keep pushing it. But I think that for now, I think it's pretty consistent to what we've been talking about all along.
I think I always tell people that, in my opinion, when you play this type of game, you would, in my opinion, I always want to try to make it as realistic as possible in terms of, am I sat in the manager's office? And if I was, what would he want to do? Well, I am, obviously, but I kind of want to be a bit more successful in my signings than with Bjerkreim. But how do we create and execute transfer policies? Well, my transfer policy is always just to obviously develop the youth and bring in players which I think can be with us for a long time. So I never use the all-known players tab apart from the loan list. Because that would be available in real life. Obviously, you can get hold of a list of players through agents, etc. So normally I just have my scouts out all the time, and I'll go onto my scout list and see what they've found. If they've got a brief report on a couple of people who look promising and who have maybe had a good upbringing in terms of club, etc., then I'll maybe asked to scout them a bit more, but it's fairly simple, to be honest with you. It's just go out there and scout the kids and see who you can find, and hopefully you'll hit a gem.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much about it. So
Okay.
I think it's more now that we just talk about people in the community who are releasing content which we enjoying.
Yep.
Colin,
Our favorite
who
segment of the
have you
week.
found?
Okay, so I will give you my three favorites for this week. So starting from
before you get going, I was thinking we should make this some sort of like news feature. So if people want to hear some sort of snazzy news, like intro, which sounds proper.
Yeah.
Colin
amazing.
just decided to ask the question in Morse code. So if anybody wants some sort of Morse
It's
code
the wire.
event,
You're talking about news. It's coming across the wire. Shut up.
Don't worry, guys. I'll mute him. Hang on. Right, go on, Colin. Who are your
Okay, so my three this week, in the written form, we have at Viva La Vida FM, who is vivalavitafm.com. He is in Chile with Union San Felipe. So an interesting one if you're into South America, Copa Libertadores, little different leagues and sort of a little off the beaten path from the standard European affair. Highly recommend. Some interesting stuff there. And then we have a relatively new YouTuber, at least from subscribers and videos in there, at GamerFair. He is with Bayer Leverkusen, having some ups and downs, but interesting nonetheless, so I'm excited to see where he goes with it. And then, just because I do enjoy a save off the beaten path, Loki Doki on YouTube he is doing a journeyman save, so he's with Levski Karlovo in Bulgaria, so most assuredly off the beaten path. So curious to see where that journeyman goes, and some interesting and sort of non-stereotypical places to play. So those are my community picks, so go check them out, give them likes, subscribes, read, and let them know you're out there.
Did you know that CSK Sofia in Bulgaria went bust, and you know that there was a team called Lexia or something in the top division. I can't remember the name exactly, but they basically got bought by the owner of CSK Sofia, and he just changed their name to CSK Sofia and moved them to Sofia.
Oh, I had no idea.
And now there's a club called CSK 1948 Sofia, owned by the fans in the 4th tier. So if anybody wants to make me the database, thank you. Worst football manager. What have you been watching this week, or reading, or talking about?
Yeah. So there's a YouTuber, and his name is FM Life, or FM Dash Life on YouTube. I think on Twitter it's FM Life 2016, and he's done an interesting video that I saw it was yesterday maybe, all about morale and kind of how to about boosting morale in the squad, and kind of and brought up just a couple of bits. Now, now, full 100% honesty, there are bits in his sort of style and the sort of ways he does things that I would agree using, and others I wouldn't. So there was a little bit of it that I felt was a little bit manipulating the game in order to get what you want it to do, which I don't like too much. Well, exactly. I wasn't going to use that word, but
if you're listening, you should be ashamed.
Whoa. Whoa! I now feel bad about plugging him. Maybe I should stop. But but actually, I think what was really helpful is about really kind of providing individual support, like praise or warning depending on their performance. So he would say, he's very obviously very specific and detailed. So he said something like above a 7.5, he would always praise conduct for a player's good game, for their performance, which has never really popped in my mind. I kind of do it if they get a man of the match, and that was about it. But yeah, I really appreciate that. And then the other one was in their individual training and looking at the performance of their individual training, not just the recommendations from your assistant manager, right? Not when you just say, here are the three best players in terms of their training performance. Yeah. But he's sort of pointing out, saying, actually, take a look on the training screen on the individual bit, see who's doing well, and actually praise them for their training level, and it will just help increase their morale. And he then does a really interesting experiment to show the impact of what morale has, which is really helpful to see, because I think sometimes I'm a bit like, are these team meetings doing anything? Does it actually have any impact? But it's good to see that it does. So yeah, it was a good video. Well, helpful. So that would be my kind of one love. And then also Toxic Lemon, I've enjoyed his videos for a long time. I love the way he creates videos. I think they're just edited very well. He has a mind that I think everybody would love to just be in there just to see what happens, because it's a very strange, you could use the word warped maybe, mind, but he makes great videos and I really enjoy him. So that would probably be, he's just started a new save. And the Forza, it's with Atletico Madrid. He's just started, and I'm looking forward to seeing that a little bit more as well.
Fandabidosi. Never thought I'd say that on a podcast.
Just did. Wow.
Well, I think first shout out this week has to be to the man, the myth, the legend, Golden FM. He's hitting it out the park with Region Rovers. It's just, I'm still hooked. I'm tweeting you. I'm still not mentioned on it. Every episode, I'm pausing the start to see if my tweets on the screen is not. My tweets have now just turned into abuse. I'm just tweeting Region Rovers abuse now, hoping one day I'll get on. Normally they start with sack Paul and stuff, so maybe that's why I'm not getting on. Maybe I should put a nice tweet out and just see if that helps.
Shock them.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It feels like, watch kids TV on a Saturday morning. Yeah, and I remember I used to watch on a Saturday morning. Or little envelope that you sent in got read out or gets picked out of the hat, and you're sitting there watching it, but it never did. That's what the last for now, right?
I know. I know. I mean, we're just digressing on that depressing state. Yeah. But moving on. Somebody's released some content, and I have asked him to do a proper blog on it, and he said no. I've asked him to tell me loads of information on it, and he said yes. So I'm happy, but he's released a post on Cleon's blog, csportcentre.com, I apologise. FM Acid Fire 21. He's doing a save with Detroit City, and he's put so much time and effort into this. The post is awesome to read. You have to follow him on Twitter to find out exactly what's going on. I wish it was updated every day. I would read this. When you had real-time FM and people would go on daily to see what's happening, I would do that with this save, because I just find it fascinating. But unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be posting that much, and it's going to be more just tweets. But make sure you follow and check it out. Go and check out his post on Cleon's website. It's definitely worth it. And also today, I got contacted by somebody. He's made his own Gazette newspaper-styled blog. It's called BWFC, Bolton Wanderers Football Club, gazette.wordpress.com. And basically, it's going to follow his journey in FM as if it's a real online newspaper. And it's really, really cool. Definitely worth checking out. It's from someone new. His Twitter handle has completely escaped my mind, so now I'm going to quickly flick and pretend I knew what I was saying. He's called Warren Peace. WPeaceFM17 is his Twitter handle. So check him out. If you find us on Twitter, we'll have tagged him in this week's episode. Yeah, I mean, we almost sound professional, but it's just, I'm going to stop talking. Go on, Colin.
Nope. So I believe that is the end of this week. So as Paul said, do find us out on Twitter. You can find us at Virtual Boot Room. You can also find us at The Northman or at FM_Yank.
It's actually at TN_The Northman. Thanks for that, Colin. Brilliant.
Sorry, my fault. I forgot. But either way, you can find us all out in the interwebs. We do love to hear from you. We've gotten some cool feedback. We do love to hear from you, things you guys want to hear and see in upcoming podcasts. So until next week,
whoa. We're going to promote his Twitter handle, or we're just going to screw the guest off?
Well, it's done. We're over.
Shall I just kick him now?
Well, now that you interrupted me, I was going to throw him to a huge thank you to our guest this week, the worst football manager. If you want to tell everybody where to find you and how to reach you as we sign off.
Yeah, well, you can. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share my stuff. I'm now going to take a good 10 minutes to do it.
I was going to do this all classy and smooth, and Paul decided to be all crappy and interrupt.
It wasn't. No chance. No.
Well, I'll do it in my classy, smooth way that I can, which is which doesn't exist, to be honest. But I'm on Twitter at worstfmanager. Always on Twitter, always happy to chat to people, and it'll be good to catch up on that.
He's always on Twitter, yet he ignored me all day.
Well, good point. I've been a busy man at work. Do you know what I mean? Just pretending I'm doing stuff on a Friday. You know what Fridays are like. You've got to kind of put in the hours of fake working. Anyway,
my day off.
Oh, lovely. That's lovely. So Twitter, Twitch. I'm on Twitch streaming now and then at Worst Football Manager Ever, and then on YouTube just search Worst Football Manager Ever as well, and it will come up. And so but thanks for having me on, guys. I really loved it.
Do you know what? Before you go,
very much.
I really want to get him to publicly agree to something, Colin.
Okay.
Your vlog that you made.
Right. What about it?
I really enjoyed it. To the extent where I genuinely think you should consider doing like a weekly vlog where you just we just follow you when you go and walk your dog and just do general things. I think you should consider doing some sort of weekly vlogging, because I genuinely thought it was really, really good. And if people haven't gone and checked it out, go and check it out, because it genuinely was really, really cool.
Well, I'll think about it. How about that? I'll think about it. My life is quite boring though. All I do is just wander around, walking the dog, playing Football Manager.
From January, I'm going to be weekly vlogging as well, and like when I go off to football matches and stuff, they're going to be in when I'm scouting teams and stuff. I'm just going to have a camera follow me every week. And my life's dreadful, so don't worry about it.
You live in a cool country, and you've got you're an actual football manager.
I know, but at least you've got a dog to walk. I mean, I'm considering asking Colin to vlog as well, just so my life seems a bit more exciting. Actually, screw that. Colin's going on the drink tomorrow night. It's turned into some sort of crazy party.
If you stay tuned to Twitter, you can find out all of my adventures for the weekend.
I'm excited.
Oh dear. But yeah, we're probably going to have to sign off now.
Okay.
Probably should.
Well, at the end of it, so thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you next week.